Hi Trader, Tina here, ShortMeTina.com with a recap. So 2 videos in 1 week. Awesome, lucky, lucky, lucky me. I get the opportunity to record videos within the week for you lovely folks. The last video that I did on Sunday, you can definitely head on over to my website, ShortMeTina.com. It's uploaded there. It's also on our YouTube channel, ShortMeTina. I talked about the S&P 500 and the levels that I was paying attention to. So I did that video on Sunday based on market action that happened on Friday, because obviously the stock market is closed on the weekend. The crypto market isn't, but that's neither here nor there. And I spoke about certain levels. And if you've been paying attention to trading all week, that is the trading day on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, today, and perhaps even tomorrow, you'll notice that that super important level, and I'll talk about it again here, that I was talking about in that video, we've had troubles sort of breaking through that level. So I explained, well, I don't know if I did my welcomes, but thanks for being here. Welcome. Let's continue. So on the last video, I spoke about sort of recognizing that the markets were in trouble early January, late December, based on what I felt was the formation of a head and shoulders top, right? You can watch that video if you want a little bit more in-depth explanation about that. I don't want to go through it here. I want to go through here other signs that was, for me, evident in the chart that preceded or went before that late December, early January, right? All right, so let's kick it off. This is S&P 500, the SPY. I typically like to look at the overall markets first, because for me, that's going to dictate what your individual stocks do. So if the overall markets, and it could be, so I'm partial to the SPY, but you can look at like the Dow, the Russell, the NASDAQ. Again, I'm just particular to the SPY, but I like to look at what the overall markets are doing, again, because it's going to dictate what your individual stocks do. You generally see that when the markets, right, when the SPY is up and the markets are booming, even if your individual stocks are not so great fundamentally, they're going to also rally. Likewise, or conversely, if the overall markets are tanking, you'll find that even if you hold really good quality stocks, they're also going to pull back as well. And we're seeing that sort of unfold or play out in the market, right? Anyway, so S&P 500 daily chart dating back to around right here. This is sort of what I like to call sort of like the COVID pandemic collapse, where we lost something like 40 to 45% in the span of weeks. And then we bottomed out, I want to say around March of 2020. You can see here, I'm looking at a line chart. So we bottomed out here in the low to mid 200s, and it's been for the most part an overall uptrend going on now about 2 years, right? So for me, I like to pay attention to this particular point. It's crucial for me, and also too, you know, the globally, not even just here where I reside in the States, but globally, you know, everyone was essentially freaking out, right? No one knew what was going to happen with this pandemic and COVID, etc. It was like lockdowns, and people were afraid. People stayed in their house. Nobody went out. We thought it was an apocalypse. Thought it was the end of the world. It was crazy. So people started like saying, I guess, you know, in retrospect, people were either going into survival mode or realized that, well, money doesn't mean much, so let me just get rid of all this stuff. And you see it play out right here in the SPY. People are just selling. And then you get to this point here, and again, for me, it's very crucial because people said, you know what, market shouldn't go any lower. And I say people because obviously folks came in and bought it up, hence why that was the low. And so I want to pay attention to that mark. So since then, and we're going on about 2 years, since this low here, let's switch to a candlestick so we can actually see where we said that's enough. So that low clocked in at around 218.26, right? from a high of around, wow, we did lose a lot. From a high of around like 340, we bottomed out at 218, and it was a nice straight uptrend line from there, right? And so I said before, prior to me seeing sort of this head and shoulders top, there were other signals that the market was in trouble. And so for me, it would be here around October of 21. And I believe, no, I didn't do a video. I think I sent out a newsletter to my members, my premium members. Anyway, so here, when the market actually breached this uptrend line after about a year or so, that should have signaled for folks that, well, you know what, the markets are a little bit shaky. So we breached it here, got back up above within that line, started to trend up again. So if you didn't get the signal in October, you definitely should have gotten the signal 2 months later in December. And for me, again, that's where I started to see that things were a little bit weak. And with this break that happened in the beginning of January, that should have said to you or to anyone who's into TA, the markets looks like it might be in a bit of trouble. Not completely certain, but it might be in a bit of trouble because it broke this about 2-year trend line, tried to recover and could not. And since topping out back in January of 2022, it hasn't been that long. It's about north of 2 months. The market has been sort of like in this descending trend. And you can see it here. I kind of drew it out with my lines. And that level, we closed at 435.71 today. Let me reset this chart so we can actually see what's going on. Remove these lines, make things a little bit smooth for you. And again, I did the video on Sunday. So if this is Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, Sunday. So our high was 437.84. We closed at 437.75. So we closed relatively close to session highs. And I said, well, you know what? We want to pay attention to sort of like that 440 mark. If we can breach 440 and hold, right? And when I say hold, I meaning we don't dip below 440. And even if we dip for a second or two, we get right back above. That's what I mean by hold. So when I did that video on Sunday, and feel free to check it out at ShortMeTina.com or on our YouTube channel, and I'm going to speed it up along. I've noticed that I've been talking about the SPY for north of 10 minutes. Crazy stuff. And I have like 3 other stocks that I want to analyze. But anyway, real quick. So I said, well, let's pay attention to that 440 mark. And if we can breach that hold, meaning sustain that break, then overall things might look up from there. So let's look at what we did the last few trading days, right? So Monday we went as high as 438, below that 440 mark. Following day, Tuesday, we went as high as 437, below that 440 mark. Wednesday, we went as high as 439.72. Got very, very close. Market said no, rejected. Didn't go high. And then today the market, in typical fashion, it says, you know what, let's try again, which it did. We got as high as 441.11. However, we couldn't, remember I said needs to hold. It couldn't sustain that, and we actually closed down 435.71, all right? The low of the day clocked in at 433, so we actually closed today with 435, close to session lows. So for me, once again, I'm going to put that 440 line back in play. So if we can get above there, and not just get above there and close below it, but if we can get above there, close above that 440 mark, I'd be more inclined to start looking at long positions and maybe putting them on. Because again, in that video that I did on Sunday, I highlighted some of the stocks that I actually want to get into once the market starts to act a little bit better. And right now we're not there. What's going to happen tomorrow? The market might try to once again breach that 440 line here, which is this downward trend that it started back in January. Again, if we can do that, more promising for me. But if we continue to get rejected every time, does not look well, in my opinion, for the overall markets. And that's why I haven't really initiated any long positions. That's why I lightened up on my long positions, the one that I've had. And I mean, I didn't short the market. I didn't feel the need to. Although thinking about it, but it depends. But for now, yeah, I'm just really sort of paying attention to that 440 mark. Hope that makes sense. For more context, definitely just watch the video that I did on Sunday, and that'll explain another way of how I view things and why I was relatively bearish heading into the beginning of 2022. Hope that makes sense. What else? All right, real quick on ticker TNXP. Stock is up 33% on the day. So huge congrats to anyone that was long this stock. Closed at 25 cents. If you look at after hours, it's essentially up marginally. It's up to about 26%. So for me, is this a buy sell hold while I jump into this? Obviously with penny stocks, anything can happen, but just based on, volume and what I'm seeing here, which is a lot of selling pressure, based on sort of this candlestick here, I'm inclined to say that I wouldn't particularly jump into this stock thinking it's going to shoot up again, especially considering that the high of the day was around 36 cents. We ended up closing at 25 cents again, up marginally in after hours. What I'm going to be paying attention to if I was in the stock is essentially how the stock opens up tomorrow, right? If we open up below 25 cents, obviously that's not good. I'd be inclined to think that this gap here will be filled. If we open up above 25 cents and we can actually hold, that bodes well if you are a long. So that's kind of my short take on TNXP. What else? All right, really quickly with ticker NCNA. This is actually a weekly chart. So brutal if you were long, great day if you were short. Stock is off north of 60% on the day. Closed at 120, essentially flat in after hours. What's going to happen tomorrow? Anytime a stock loses 60% in one day, that does not bode well entirely for the psychology of long holders or even for the stock chart in general. You can see here that it breached, I have no positions in this, it breached sort of that support line of around, let's say we can call that line around 2 to 215, that has remained support for a very long time. It breached that today, and it breached it in a very bad way. You can even look at confirming volume here. Again, we closed at 120. Session lows is 116. So we essentially closed close to session lows. Again, selling off something north of 60%. So if you're long, this does not bode well. Is there going to be more selling tomorrow? There's always the possibility that there's going to be more selling, but and generally what I've seen with these sorts of moves is if a stock loses 60% in one day, the next day you're going to get a lighter sell-off, right? So it might sell off, or at least initially you might get that initial wash in the morning, something like a 5 or 10% move, and more than likely it's probably going to be up on the day. If it's not up tomorrow, it's more than likely it's going to be up 15 to 20% on Monday, and that has a lot to do with maybe shorts sort of covering their position. So if you're on the sidelines and you're looking to jump in and get long, there might be an opportunity to get a quick 15 to 20%, and I probably wouldn't hold it after that, because more than likely it's going to continue the pattern that it has had since it got on the market back in 2018, which is this steady decline. All right, hope that makes sense. What else? All right, so let's round it out with ticker VEON, also a weekly chart, but this, I'll talk about this stock in and of itself, but it kind of highlights what I was speaking about with ticker NCNA. When a stock sort of declines a huge amount, with NCNA it was north of 60%, with VEON it was off about a little over 40% on the day. So if you look at after hours, the stock is actually up north of 20%. It's up specifically 18.97% in after hours. I see a quote of around 31 cents. So again, just to jump back to what I was saying with stocks that lose a lot, you eventually get that sort of 15 to 20% spike. Generally, it doesn't happen the same day in after hours, but you're eventually going to get it. So with VEON, will I jump in this stock tomorrow? Probably not. Similar to NCNA, you'll get that spike, but what usually happens, it's going to continue sort of like this downward trend or this downward pattern. If you're long, you believe in the stock, you want to hold on to it, do just that, right? Who am I to tell you what to do with your investments? But for me, again, generally speaking, I mean, look at this pattern. Obviously, there's a case to be made that eventually, the selling will dry up and you're going to get that spike. But the fact that you had sort of like this notorious move the last 2 days, I'm not sure that's going to happen anytime soon. That like reversal that does occur, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon in ticker VEON. Again, the stock is damaged. Psychologically, buyers are probably damaged. You just got to kind of give it some time to play itself out. Yeah, so hope that makes sense. Wouldn't be jumping in here or anywhere. Anyway, so let's conclude it with that. ShortMeTina here. Thanks for listening. I know I rambled a little bit with the SPY, but I kind of really wanted to get my point out with that, and then also talk about how crucial that 440 level is. And then I just dived into some penny stocks because I haven't analyzed them in quite some time, and visually it's just good for me to always see that and look for patterns, etc. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, definitely give it a thumbs up, like, comment, whether or not, even if you don't agree with me, just hop on the YouTube page and just let me know what your thoughts are. Even if you're like a die-hard long, say, look, Tina, you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. You're ridiculous. Comment in the comment section if you like it. Hit that like button. If you dislike the video, smash that dislike button. If you feel I know what I'm talking about, what we do on our website, ShortMeTina.com, is we actually have a trading course where I essentially detail for folks through videos and other formats of learning the things that I've learned trading the stock market for north of 20 years. So if you're interested in that, we don't charge anything for it. It's completely free. You can head on over to ShortMeTina.com and just drop us your email. All right, folks, thanks. 2 videos in 1 week. Who knows? You'll probably get another video next week. All right, guys, it's always been fun. Bye.